Hey, Dad, can I ask you a question?
Go to it.
Well, we said last week that it was the video era, and then we said, it's just a trial, it's just a test.
How'd
So
the
here we
trial
are.
go? How'd the trial go?
I think it went well. So here we are at the very, very first, real first on screen. People probably don't even know what the hell we look like. This is great.
I just hope that people don't think I'm too fidgety. You know,
Yeah, because
that's
like
that's
you
the
said,
thing.
you're already a fidgety person.
I am a fidgety person, so it's my ADHD.
ADHD. Don't we all have a little ADHD, a little something? It's good to see you today, Dad.
Nice to see you, Max. I woke up in a really shitty mood today.
Well, let's not bring it to the forefront of the
No, no, no.
pod.
Now I feel great now because the sun came out. It was so like wet and foggy this morning, and I headed out on a bike ride, and man, it was just depressing. And then the sun came out. It
That's
was
awesome.
it was just wonderful.
You sent me a lovely text, um, but started off with like a bit of a you startled me a little bit because you were like, I can't fucking believe you. And I'm
Yeah,
like, what did I do now? And then you're like, you really just turned me on to Goose so much that like I can't
yeah.
I can't stop listening. So
Oh
here we
my
are.
god, it's so good. It's so good. What's the name of the new album? I don't even know.
I think the new album is called Everything Must Go,
Uh-huh.
and it is their longest LP.
Yeah.
Goose, for those of you that don't know, if you're just tuning into the show for the first time, it is, I would, I think I can speak on behalf of both of us that it is currently together and separately our favorite current band. Um, they're amazing. They're
Yeah, I'll
amazing.
I'll tell you. I had read something a couple of weeks ago on, I'm sure on Instagram, social media, that like, people like after the age of 37 or 35 or something, like you stop enjoying new music.
Yeah, I
And
believe that.
because yeah, and like me, I still listen to a lot of 80s music and 70s music, and I got to tell you, thanks for the introduction, man, to Goose. Because at 55 years of age, I found a new band that I fucking love. Oh my god.
They're
Oh
great.
my, yeah, they're fantastic.
I there isn't really a band out there like them right now, and there's also like I'm not really into like all this new music. The only two current artists that I'm keeping up with
Mhm.
is Goose and Tame Impala. That's really it.
Fair,
And a,
completely
and a
fair.
little bit a little bit of Lady Gaga because her new stuff is has brought me back to like her Bad Romance days, and like she's pretty great. You
She's
can't
great.
deny it.
She's great, but as a musician, I don't really like her. I think I like her more as an actress.
Yeah, I mean she's done great
Really,
stuff
really.
as she's done a Star is Born. She's done A Star is Born.
Yeah, I
No,
don't
I'm
know
kidding.
what she's done. I just read she was in the Ryan
Uh,
Murphy,
yeah,
right?
American Horror Story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's talented. She's definitely talented.
So it's interesting though, like, listening to new music and living in a new space and something I had never experienced because I've never liked TV shows. And you had said, like, look, when you start to live with your partner,
Mhm.
like you're gonna get into TV shows because you kind of look forward to it like every night or every week, and you can't really
Yeah,
sit down and watch a movie every week. And I was like, yeah, yeah, sure, but
right.
it's already starting. I mean, Survivor every Wednesday now,
Oh
and
yes.
and upon your recommendation, we started watching The Pit, and we love it.
Oh my God, isn't it great?
So
That's it.
great.
It's funny. You texted me last night or 2 nights ago. You're like, "Oh my God, episode two."
Yeah,
I'm on episode five for the second time, and it just gets better and better because you got to remember their day. It's like
right.
we discussed last week. It's every hour of the day. Well, you hope when you first walk into work, which is episode one and two, that like work is a little quiet, and then the chaos does start. And I think in
Totally,
episode four, five, six, when they're in the middle of the shift, it's really going to start. You'll see.
totally,
Yeah, it's pretty,
totally.
it's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty great show. I can't deny it. And Survivor like is excellent right now. I mean, I thought the truth be told, I thought the beginning of the season was a little slow for my liking.
Mhm.
there were some good relationships there, but the last episode, did you watch the last episode yet?
Yeah, I was disappointed with the person who got voted out.
You were disappointed that
I
David
really
got
liked
voted out?
I really liked David. I mean, he was a musclehead. He was a little bit of a like
He
I
was
know
be
everything, but
Dad,
he
he
got a
was
little paranoid.
becoming
I mean, he got paranoid.
he got really
That's
paranoid.
why
Became
they
a
voted him out.
he
But
became a little bit of a bully,
yeah, a little bit of a putz.
which
But
I didn't
I kind
really
of liked him at the beginning. But yeah, he changed. It goes to show you what happens in the jungle there, or in wherever they are this season. Like you start to lose it a little bit.
I just
Definitely
hope that
start to lose your mind.
whatever happens in the jungle stays in the jungle because I would have hated for like to hear about, back then it's like, you don't know whether these guys hate each other or not after they get voted
Uh-huh.
off, but now with
Yeah,
social media it's like if they have a problem with someone, like they can say it. And unfortunately these survivors that are kind of craving fame, that they'll say
yeah.
it. They'll say anything to make a headline. So it's kind of nice that they're kind of leaving. I thought David getting voted out, I thought he was
Mhm.
going to be bitter. I thought I was going to see stuff on social media about him saying, screw Kyle and, you know, Shaheen's a snake, and like none of that. So,
Mhm.
but man,
No,
good stuff.
yeah, it's fun.
Good
So,
stuff.
what's going on with you?
Not much. I had to make an abrupt, sudden trip to
Hmm.
Florida for,
Yeah,
reasons I don't really want to disclose out of respect on camera, on the microphone, but definitely very eye-opening experience.
mhm.
And silver lining was that I got to see some friends, that I probably wouldn't have seen for months. And I got to see a family friend, which was kind of cool. And you were just with them. Shout out Tammy and Stu.
Yeah,
And you went to the Sphere with them, which we talked about.
yeah.
And I had just seen them a week before at Madison Square Garden. And speaking of Madison Square Garden, I just bought my Goose tickets.
Nice, very nice.
Pretty
Well,
awesome.
I know we don't want to go into it too much, but we'll beat around the bush a little bit. I think you grew up a lot this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely
I think what you witnessed is hmm, it's eye opening,
for sure lots of
and
perspective.
yeah, and
Um,
that's part of life.
Unfortunately. But on the bright side, came back. The weather in
Mhm.
New York, unbelievable. Starting to get a little hot. It's getting a little hot in the
Hot
apartment.
and like sticky.
No, not
Ooh,
not sticky yet, but hot in the apartment for
wow.
sure.
Wow, you're gonna
Yeah,
have to get a one of those rolling AC units. Yeah.
totally. Totally.
Thank
I
God the
uh
apartment's not too big.
I know. Yeah, I think a friend of ours, shout out Andy,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make her listen to this so that she knows that this is my official ask for her air condition because she said she has one that she never uses because she's
Oh,
away during the summer.
okay.
So this is my official ask. But yeah, the weather's not too bad. Actually, I kind of want to switch gears if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
started doing something while I work. I always have like AP News open on my computer
Hmm.
just to kind of like stay up to date with what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Hmm.
They put out a 60-second video and it was like Trump's first 100 days in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm
What
like,
a shit show.
yeah, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, how much damage to the government, to the
Yep.
American people could he
Yep.
possibly do in the presidency? He did more than we thought in just 100 days.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty upsetting to see it day in, day out.
And look, I'm
And
not I'm not saying that there are certain things within the, Republican Party and that conservatives stand for that I would more than likely agree with, but I think even some Republicans are like, what the fuck's going on here?
I think all the Republicans are like, what the fuck is going on? But they're so afraid to say anything because they're going to lose their fucking jobs because he'll come after them.
You really think
Fucked
like
up.
they would
It's a
lose
fucked
their
up
jobs?
situation. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're all petrified. And I think the ones who are retiring or the ones who are just saying, I'm not doing this anymore, then some of them speak out. But I think they're all petrified and he will come after you and you probably will lose your job. Just your supporters will end up voting you, not voting you out, but You know, the other party will win that location. Yeah, it's tough what he's doing. And it's this whole tariff thing is making everyone fucking crazy.
Oh
He's
yeah,
it's 145%, then it's only 10%, and then I'm going to walk back parts, and we're gonna build factories in the Midwest, and which will take 25 years to build a building in this country. It's crazy what he's doing.
it's
You know what,
absurd.
Max, and as a worker, me, and you for that matter, but particularly me, it's very stressful. It's got to be very stressful for a lot of people, and I think everyone's starting to feel it.
Mm,
Did you hear about this thing that Amazon was has to increase prices like everybody else, and
sure.
Amazon was going to put by the side of the original price the actual increase that the tariff is causing. Make any sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's say my caffeine energy drink was $16. Right next to it, there's going to be like a little sub price saying,
sure.
well, it's $18 now because $2 is because of the tariffs. And you know, I was like, wow, Jeffrey Bezos, good for him. But my understanding from listening to my news podcast this morning, which was making me depressed on my bike ride, was that Trump calls Jeffrey Bezos and says, "You don't can't if you do this, there's going to be ramifications." And it's like they just want to. The Trump administration just wants to hide the fact that this is all happening. And then you have fucking Howard Lutnick, head of the Department of Commerce, who who was the head of Cantor Fitzgerald when the plane crashed into the World Trade Center, and he lost his whole staff. And he actually funded families for however long, for the next 10 years or something. He did something absolutely incredible. And he's on the news now, just saying that, like, oh, the tariffs aren't going to affect anybody. Big deal. Everything goes up 10%. Who cares? Like, 10% on a $40,000 car. That's a big fucking deal, Max. I mean,
No doubt. The other
on
the
my
other
pack of
day,
gum doesn't matter.
no doubt, 10% is actually a lot. Like the other day, we went. I don't know if I told you this. We went to see Sinners, which, by the way, I
Yeah,
know you haven't seen it. I know I told you
I
to go
have
see
not.
it.
I know.
Go
Sorry.
see it.
Mm-hmm.
Go see it, please. And if you are listening and you don't know what movie to go see, and or
Yeah.
you haven't been to the movies in a while, like just go see it. I've now recommended it to two people to go
Mm-hmm.
watch. And these
Mm-hmm.
are two people, one person who I just met for the first time, and then the other person who's like, I'm sick and tired of your recommendations, man. Both people came back and were like, oh my God, like this was awesome,
You do the recommendations to anyone that will listen, basically.
pretty much.
Okay.
So we go to the movies,
Love you.
and before the movies, love you too. Before the movie starts, we're walking in, and in like the lobby is these guys from Con Edison, which is, your
Your local
exactly.
electric company, Con Ed.
And we kind of get cornered by this guy. He's works for the company. He's a sales guy, and he's like, "Hey, like we're gonna give you a gift card um to AMC, but in turn, we are asking if you want to opt in and sign up for like green clean energy." And we're like, "Yeah, sure." So we're like reading about it, talking about it, and then at the very end, that's when he decides to tell us how much is on the gift card. It's like only
Right.
$5. It's
Right.
like, what the hell is that? What's that going to get us at AMC? And then
Right.
two, he's like, yeah, it'll likely increase your monthly electrical bill, but
So what's green about?
only
Yeah.
but only by 5 to 10%. I'm thinking to myself, 5 to 10% could be a lot though, depending
Depends on
on
what it is. Yeah.
totally. So we opted in for it just to get the gift card, and then like
Yeah.
the next morning we called and opted out.
Hmm.
The point
No, well,
is I
yeah.
was kind of curious to see, because like you just said, it's like if your car costs X amount of money, if your bike costs X amount of money, and then there's a 10% tax on that, it's like that price is actually going up a ton. And so I
Could.
was I was
It
really
definitely could.
interested in kind of seeing what that first bill was going to look like,
Mhm.
but now
But
we'll
you
never
won't.
know. So
All right. Well, I guess you scammed the system. What can I tell you? You know,
Yeah, but you know, in New York especially, you can't get cornered into that stuff. You can't get sucked into that stuff. And you know, I felt bad because afterwards, like Damaris is like, I was like kind of giving her a hard time. Like she was like, "Well, then why didn't you stop me from signing up?" And I was like,
and
"Well, I
I don't
kind of wanted
understand.
to
What are
hear."
you actually signing up for? Green energy and living in a New York City apartment. Isn't
It's
that up to
just
the landlord to sign into
no,
that? I'm
it's
just,
it's more so just to like promote green, clean living and you know, make New York a better place, make the world a better place.
yeah.
But then I'm like, so New York is implementing a new law where I don't know exactly when. I think it's sometime this month
Mhm.
or this coming month, May. Um, Composting is going to be required by all New York City
Yeah.
residents,
Yeah.
and they and my
Mhm.
grandmother will tell me who they are one day.
Yeah.
Say that if you don't, you're going to be fined. And I thought to myself, well, one, how do they find that out?
I don't know.
Maybe like this. They watch my podcast and are like, "Oh, Max Lasky didn't," you know,
Oh, yeah.
or
Right.
or two, or two. I thought to myself, if let's just assume
Mhm.
more than half the residents in New York City are not composting, what is it actually doing? How is it actually benefiting? So I see what they were trying to do with the Con Ed green energy because it's like, okay, they want to get as many people as possible to do this, but they know that unless like they must know at least half of New York City isn't using green energy.
Yeah.
Therefore, how is it actually like I am a small percentage helping create, you know, a cleaner world. You know what I mean? Like I'm like it's
Some,
tough,
somebody once told me that small hinges swing big doors. I still don't know what that really means. But that being said, listen, you do your share, your neighbor does their share, and so on and so on. Maybe something can be done. I don't really know. I don't think enough people really give a shit about the climate change. And that goes back to the composting, believe it or not, because supposedly the compost lets off methane gas,
right?
blah, blah, blah. Listen, listen, it's definitely getting warmer. At least where I live, it's definitely getting warmer,
Yeah,
and
how's the weather out there?
it's crappy because we're in May gray, even though it's April, and it's
May
but
gray and
May
then June
gray,
gloom.
and then June gloom, yeah. And like I don't know, I read some stuff that like the world heated up, fucking 300 years ago, like 2 degrees, and we're at 1.5 degrees right now. Like, what's the big deal? Is it really our fault? Is it really because of the industrial revolution, and we're just continuing to pollute the world? I don't know, Max. I have no clue. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But I will tell you this, no one I know really talks about it too much. You know,
I know.
it is what it is. And I think there's a few loudmouths out there, just like there are a lot of fucking loudmouth MAGA motherfuckers out there, and they're just making a big fuss about it. But again, I don't really know for sure because I'm not a scientist. I don't really dig into this stuff. I do feel that it's the storms obviously are getting harsher, but then again, we have more news to cover this stuff. You know, my friend who grew up in Florida, we were talking about like when they get those crazy hurricanes, and
Yeah.
like Adam, like years, he's like, when I lived in Florida 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, he says, he's like, the fucking marshlands all over the place. He's like, all that land can absorb the storms. He's like, now it's all been covered by cement. It all has homes on it now. He's like, there's nowhere for the water to go.
Mm,
It kind of makes sense. Now he's a big Republican, okay, so
right.
they can spin anything, but
Sure.
yeah, but it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It just does. I have no idea, Max.
I have a question for you.
Yes, yeah.
Just something I was pondering.
Mhm.
Not and this is not a question to like bring anyone down. Is actually just to like fantasize for a second. Like was curious, like, so in another lifetime, everyone talks about like, oh, in another lifetime, I'm gonna do this, in another lifetime, I'm gonna do that. So in
Mhm.
another lifetime, because I know you love what you do, and you love that what you do is what your hobby is. It's like your
Yeah.
number one thing.
Yeah.
How can you beat that? But in another life,
Mhm.
like what could you, as a preferred profession, what could you see yourself doing?
Doctor.
Doctor. Okay, that was a
Mhm. Yeah.
quick answer. So
Yeah.
why?
Um,
You like people. You love
yeah, you
people.
know what? As much as I fool around, I don't like people all that much. I
You
do
love
like people
people.
and I like helping people. I would be the doctor with not the greatest bedside manners, but I would be thorough
Mm,
and I would care a great deal and I wouldn't fucking bullshit you.
right.
I just wouldn't. Yeah, I've thought about that. It's
Really?
weird. Yeah, I've had those discussions with my mother over the years. And she was like, "Well, it's too bad you didn't try." And some people would say, "Well, you're 55 years old. Go back to go to medical school." I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah, and then sit in like $300,000 of debt.
well, you know what? I'm just not that. I'm not interested in changing my life that drastically because
I get
then
it.
medical school, and then you have to be a student, and and then you got to work in the pit, for
Right.
a couple.
Oof.
Yeah, I'll be, and I don't have energy anymore. Working retail, I noticed something happening in the last in the last 6 months. I'm exhausted after work,
Mm,
really tired, and I don't want to do much after work, which is unfortunate. I don't see a lot of people except for your mother. I see a few friends after work. I mean, my days off when I go bike riding, I definitely see my friends. But it's just I can see like the age, and it's getting harder. It
mm.
is, and it's okay. It's okay.
What about like professional athlete? Maybe a golfer?
No,
Nah.
no, not interested in any of that.
Golfing is tough.
That
Have
just
you seen the Netflix documentary about golf?
no.
It's a tough business. I mean, these guys are like friends, but then they go out there on these tours and if they might make like a really small amount of money. I'm not
And they go out
counting,
there on their own dime.
right. I'm not counting though like their sponsorship and endorsement deals. I'm
Hmm.
talking about the physical competitions.
Right.
Like they go out there on their own dime. If they probably get paid like a really small percentage
Mhm.
just to play, but like if they don't even crack the top 3, like they're making nothing. Like literally nothing. And what's interesting in this documentary, a lot of the guys say the same thing. Like, we are friends. And it's the one sport where, like, you could be friends with as many of these golfers as you want. But the one thing that you have to remind yourself of is that if you aren't playing at the very best, if you aren't winning, then your friend, in theory, is taking money out of your pocket, is taking food off your family's table, is preventing you from going on that vacation you want to go to. And
Wow.
it's crazy because if you really think about like the other sports, these baseball players, they could play for any team they want. They could be friends with whoever they want on any team.
Mhm.
If said team misses the playoffs and doesn't finish above 500, some of those players are still making millions of dollars a year. Doesn't matter to them. I mean, it matters to them because they're hungry for that competition and winning. They love winning.
What I always found interesting about golf, because I used to play golf and I used to watch it
I
religiously.
remember. I remember.
Yeah.
There's a phase there.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was a good phase. I actually beat my boss on Father's Day in Carlsbad once. He was not happy about that.
Ooh,
But
Aviera.
yeah, Javier, exactly. But you know what I always found interesting about golf is that you can watch golf on any given Sunday, and there's seems to me that there's always a different leader and a guy
Always.
now I never heard of. And I'm like,
Right.
wow, there's another guy there. Oh, it's not Tiger Woods anymore. It's not Phil Mickelson anymore. Not Rory, whatever his name is.
Rory McIlroy,
Yeah,
who
it's
just
not.
won who just won the
Yeah,
Masters.
or just there's a guy named Justin out there. But it's just interesting how like and any like Saturday, whereas like when I was growing up and Michael Jordan, it's like Michael Jordan was winning every game. He's winning all the championships, and for years, Charles Barkley always in the news. He was fantastic. Kobe, whoever it was, and
Oh,
golf, it was like there was a new guy top three every single weekend. I'm like, I can't keep up with this shit. Like
right.
who's this guy now hugging his kids on the 18th green?
Totally.
Like
You should check out the documentary. It's pretty good, called Full Swing.
Man, you watch a lot of stuff, Max.
But my issue, right, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying about like how I love movies, don't love TV.
Hmm.
I can watch a movie start to finish. Me telling you I've seen that documentary series, like,
Hmm.
isn't me saying I finished it. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I've seen bits and pieces on YouTube. I've watched like a few episodes, but yeah, I consume a lot though. I see a lot, and I'm just tapped into what's going on in pop culture and sports, and try to just
good.
tap into all the markets. Like
I like it.
wrestling of course is
Sure.
huge right now, and John Cena, I think we alluded to this on the last episode, but like John Cena and Randy Orton turned back the clocks a little bit.
Yep.
Really cool to see that. Aleister Black and Rusev back in WWE, like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Excuse me. You brought up a point like consuming all this content, and I was reading something the other day that like we're we're like a society that doesn't really own anything anymore. And I found that to be really interesting. It's
How
like
so?
most of us lease our cars. I don't own my car.
It's better, by the way. Continue.
Most of us, if you're lucky enough, have a mortgage. I
Right.
don't own my house.
And
The
many
bank,
people would say not important.
but
Gary Vee
correct,
actually
correct,
always says,
correct. And it's not important. And you know
right.
what? Because because then you kind of tied down.
Yeah.
I get that, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And whereas rent, you're not tied down, but rent, you don't own anything, right? But now go back to like when I was a kid. All right, let's buy the latest VHS tape. I cost 19.99, but now, well, now then let's move into the future. Now let's buy the latest DVD. Okay, now go to music. Let's buy the latest tape, latest CD.
Sure.
Now it's all streaming. And where do I get that information from? I am borrowing it from Apple. I am borrowing your movie or that I used to own. I'm now borrowing it from Paramount Plus. I really found that to be very interesting because, you know, it's a potentially a very big problem in the future because I know I have read some stuff and it could be conspiracy stuff that
Here we go.
there are companies out there like BlackRock who want us all to become renters eventually so that they control everything. And maybe not. But like, at the end of the day, I don't own CDs anymore. I don't own DVDs anymore. And I have to make sure that my streaming service is being paid for so that I
Right.
can borrow your content for a few minutes.
I'm gonna want to own some properties, but I do see a big benefit if, of course, you can negotiate like rent stabilization. I
Mm-hmm.
think renting is the way to go. Like I've been consuming a lot of what Gary Vee has to say. And again, I don't want anyone who listens to us and watches us to think that like, oh, just because I'm listening to Gary Vee, it means that I believe in everything he says. Or just because
Right.
I watch Logan Paul's, YouTube clips, I'm a fan, It's
Right.
like it's just what I'm taking in. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of creating my own opinions from what they're saying. And like he did say, he's like, I see all the benefits of owning and having assets and this, and that. He's like, but I also see all the benefits of not. And he's like, I think people are kind of, they're kind of, their brains are constructed to like just assume, you got to own shit, you got to have assets. And it's like, he's like,
Listen,
how
I
about,
think,
he goes, how about just living comfortably? He's like,
I think
how about just
Max,
living within your means?
Max, back in the 50s, 40s, whatever it was, the American dream was to own your own home.
Right.
And that since the pandemic, that American dream has really gone out the window because
Yeah.
housing prices are too much. But that being said, rent is also too much also. So that being said, I pay X amount of dollars to live in this house every month, and that's fixed. That
Right.
can't be touched.
Right.
Like my mortgage can't be touched.
Sure.
Right.
Because you own
But
the home.
because I own the home. Well, the bank owns the home, but I'm paying the bank.
Right.
But if I rent, that landlord can come to me every year and say, "Oh, here's a 10% increase."
Yeah. And that's the
So
problem.
that's that's the issue. But I love your idea about owning that so you become the landlord. That's a
Right.
great idea.
I don't have an issue with that. Owning some places, renting some places. I think that, I want to get to a point in my life where I'm like smart enough to kind of weigh in all those pros and cons. Cause like I
Hmm.
know some friends whose families like they own this house, but they
Yeah.
rent this house, or they
Right.
own this place and they rent out this place. And it's like
Hmm.
there's strategy there. And who knows what, I'm
Oh, I
obviously
would.
not counting the possible illegal shit some people do with like money laundering and all that. That's not what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Forget. Yeah. It's not in
Talking
the
about
conversation.
like I'm talking about like our next door neighbor owning a few places and then renting out one of them. You know what I mean?
Max, I was talking to a buddy of mine the other night, and he was telling me how he rents out his house in Sherman Oaks for $25,000 a month.
Wow.
Okay, and he now rents a place like somewhere in La Jolla or something,
Yeah.
like down south near San Diego County. He's like, "Can I pay $7,000 a month there?" He's like, "Easy."
Right.
Right? I was like, "Wow, like what a great fucking idea." Right?
So for the Olympics in 2028, which is coming, and I've
Yeah.
said this, and I actually just saw a friend of mine from high school. We were
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Olympics, and he basically took the words out of my mouth. And he's like, I told my parents, he's like, he was like, I told my parents, you guys are stupid, like flat out stupid. No offense. If you don't rent the home out for the
I will
Olympics,
cross that bridge when I get there, but you're right.
you
I
can make
should.
so much
And,
money.
and you know what I just heard? You want to hear this bullshit from the city of Los Angeles?
Yeah.
The 405 is going under construction again from Victory Boulevard in the valley down through the Sepulveda Pass during the Olympics. It's supposed to start in 2026 and
Who
take about
approves
eight
that shit?
years. I don't
Who
know.
approves that?
They're fucking idiots in the city. And
Who approves that?
didn't we just redo the 405 for 10 fucking years? Do you remember? You
Yeah,
probably don't
wasn't it
because you were
called
too small.
Carmageddon? It was called
Carmageddon.
Carmageddon.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they shut down the freeways. You probably don't remember this, but I used to leave the house sometimes because it would take me 2.5 hours to
Yeah.
go 11 miles. I left the house sometimes at like 5:30 in the morning. I would
Oh,
park in at Helen's and I would just go back to sleep in the car for a few hours.
I do remember
And
that.
it's like now that I have the Vespa, I don't care. Do whatever the fuck you want. I've been on that thing so much. If I don't get killed soon, I will be very surprised. I got to tell you, man,
Okay,
I have
I don't
been.
want to hear that.
I know you don't want to hear that, but like
Certainly don't want to hear that.
I've been riding, splitting lanes, and usually, the cars are still,
Yep.
but I go in between the cars, and you know what? I get home so quickly now. It's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. I think a
Well, I'm happy.
motorcycle. I think another motorcycle's in my future.
Well, I'm happy to hear it, Dad. My stomach's grumbling, so tell the people what they got to do.
Well, one, I want to say thank you for viewing us, right? Listening to us.
Right?
Don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, leave a comment.
Follow us on Instagram at Things You Should Ask Your Dad. Clips coming soon. Very important.
Yeah.
And Dad,
I, lo-
love you lots.
I love you ton, Max. See you soon.
We'll do it next week.
Yeah.
And
And then I think in a couple of weeks, we're going to be able to do it together.
I do because I wanted to mention we can talk about it a little more, but I'm going to see you really soon
Yes.
because
You're walking in graduation in Boston. Woo.
going
Walking.
back to Boston.
Yeah, I don't speak English very well. Good night, everybody.
You speak English fine. Love you, Dad.